Save the Semantics, episode 268. It is August 12th, 2024. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Recording this in the late afternoon, early evening, if you will. Today has been an interesting day, to say the least. Actually, no. It's been very... fine. It's been fine. It's been good. It's a very... I felt today was kind of like a dream in a weird sense, and I swear I'm not on any substance or anything like that. It just felt, I felt kind of ethereal. I kind of just went through the day, maybe because I didn't get the best sleep, even though I felt like I got a good amount of sleep, but I just felt that I was kind of floating through the day. I'm sort of tired, but not really. I felt that I was kind of awake, but not really. It's kind of in this interesting in-between netherworld, if you want to call it that. And it was interesting. I don't know. I just kind of went about it. I didn't really have too much going on. It felt very much like a typical kind of Monday start to the week, but I was kind of, I was kind of floating a little bit. That sounds so strange, but that's kind of what headspace I was in, and I kind of currently am in right now. It's one of those things where I feel as though I could go to bed earlier than I usually do, but in reality, I just can't. I've talked about this, but I am not someone who can go to bed early, as hard as I try. I have to stick to some sort of consistent sleep time, which kind of corresponds to a sleep schedule of sorts, right? So regardless of if I do get the full expected sleep cycle of 8 hours, if you will, I tend to go to bed at the same time, which is usually recently has been around midnight. That's just been a consistent point for me, is to go to bed at that specific time. And to deviate from that even slightly to where if it is earlier, later is obviously not good, because that just means less sleep, right? But later doesn't necessarily mean better quality sleep either. So I'm sort of, it continues to kind of plague me, you know what I mean? Where it's not the worst thing ever, but it is something that I have to sort of continue to deal with, is trying to figure out my sleep and everything like that. And I have considered maybe going to a sleep doctor or something like that, but I don't feel like my case is severe enough to warrant that, you know what I mean? So we'll see. I continue to kind of go back and forth between, hey, this might be an issue that I should maybe deal with, or maybe I feel that I can kind of handle things. And I think for the most part, I can kind of handle things. But that kind of leads to days like this, where I feel like I'm floating, which isn't so bad. I just feel very neutral. Actually, I started off the morning in kind of a cranky mood, which sounds very typical, right? And it kind of was. I was just like, that's getting into the week, and you just want to you just want to slap yourself awake. Not in an abusive way, but just to get yourself awake, you know? But then as the day kind of progressed, I was just kind of like, I'm kind of a little, I'm a little cloud, just kind of floating around and observing things. This sounds ridiculous. But that's just kind of where the headspace I was in today. Very strange. I know. I'm usually where I kind of fall is if I just have a stinky moment in my day, it just kind of ruins my entire day. Maybe I just kind of maybe something comes up and it's just like, I don't want to deal with this. Maybe I have to deal, like, I don't know, with paperwork or something like that. Or there's something irritating happens, like, I don't know, my tire goes flat. I don't know, something along those lines. That's it. It's unfortunate, but those things kind of unfortunately ruin the rest of the day. Nothing like that happened today. It was just sort of this. It was just a day, which kind of sounds magical in a sense. Okay, this is getting a little ridiculous. Now it sounds like I might be on something. I swear I'm not. It was just coffee. That's all I was on today. Coffee and maybe, I don't know, maybe a little too much, I don't know, sugar. Coffee with too much sugar. That could kind of do you in a little bit. So this weekend, I had a little change of pace, actually. Change of pace meaning I sort of tried out something that I hadn't in a while, which was watching anime. I haven't watched any anime for a very long time, extensively. I didn't, I haven't gotten around to watching a full series for a very long time. But there was a YouTube video that popped up in my recommended talking about some anime that you can watch in a shorter span of time, like a weekend or so. And I watched it. There were some interesting recommendations on there. And that kind of, that's like perfect for me right now, especially. That is like the perfect kind of show where it is a contained show that has a clear ending of sorts, and that can be finished in less than a week, right? So if like an episode, or excuse me, if a show is like 12 episodes, each anime episode is more or less around 20-25 minutes or so. So if you do the math, it's really doable, right? That's like 3 hours of your time. That's nothing. That's not bad at all. You can easily do that in a weekend. So in a day, even if you really want to binge. So I was just kind of, you know what? I haven't watched anime. I haven't watched any TV in general. So I just said, why not? Let's just watch something off of this list. And I decided to go with Madoka Magic, which I've heard about. I heard the name before. I didn't really know much about it. It's sort of, I don't want to give too much away in case, someone listening is interested in seeing it. If you like something similar to Re:Zero, I think there's a lot of, that might give away too much, honestly, but I'll just say there are some thematic elements in Re:Zero that are very similar to what is being shown in Madoka Magica. Maybe maybe there are some influences here and there. There are tropes that kind of persist in a lot of anime and light novels and manga and all that stuff, so that's not super, novel in any sense. But I think if you like something that's maybe, it's a little more, not challenging, but it's maybe a little darker than you would anticipate, I'd recommend it. I thought it was neat. I thought it was a well done, self-contained story. I know that there is a movie and there is another series apparently. But from what I've heard, this story is wrapped up and has reached a pretty, I don't know, conclusion. It's reached a pretty, concrete conclusion. So I don't, am I interested in seeing some of the other things? Not really. I feel pretty satisfied with kind of how things wrapped up. Again, I don't want to give too much away because like the story is kind of really the driving force of this anime. I don't even really want to explain it. Just go check it out. Just read the description and then understand that it's more than what the description says. It's one of those. it's not misleading, but there's more than what the surface shows. So if you want to delve into it, if again, I feel really good about the comparison with ReZero. If you liked ReZero, I think you would like this one as well. Speaking of ReZero, actually, third season is coming up right around the corner. I had no idea. I actually just kind of looked it up out of curiosity, and it's right around the corner, which is cool because I hadn't realized it's already been a few years since season 2. So I'm glad that it's coming back around. I mean, I still have a ton of anime that I need to catch up on. Attack on Titan. What else? It was just on the tip of my tongue. Mob Psycho. I'm probably going to watch Mob Psycho next, honestly. I think that's going to be kind of next on my list, knowing that series is already finished. So that I do have on my list. I've heard... what's that series called? Something Saga? Viking Saga? No, that's not what it's called. You know what I'm talking about. But it's with the Vikings. I heard that one's really good. There's some good stuff out there, and I have not had the chance, or I just really haven't had any motivation to watch anything. But I feel like after this, I'm getting sort of back into it. So this series, I think what it does really well, I think, is with the art. I really like the contrast between sort of the quote-unquote real world, which feels very sort of sterile and, not very, just kind of robotic, metallic, clean. And then when you go into kind of this other world that exists, you get it's kind of insane. It feels like an acid dream when they transition into these sequences. You get stuff, you get stuff like, weird drawings. It's like pencil drawings and patchwork and clip art. It's such an interesting mix of art forms. Of course, along with the anime itself, but the fact that they melded this all together is really cool. It feels very kind of nightmarish, kind of fits in with maybe kind of the horror themes of this series. And I really like that. I think I really appreciated the colors and everything, just kind of the madness of that. I do think the reality, the world that is sort of the reality, I also liked the color, palette that they chose. Different sort of, hues and stuff to represent the mood of the current scene, or, maybe if there's like a blue kind of abstraction, it's sort of done to complement the character who has the blue hair. Like, I like that kind of thing. I think it does it really well. The animation is very cool as well. It's not like crazy, it's not like the most insane animation that I've ever seen, but they do some very interesting cuts and edits, and they do, they hone in on the characters sort of turning their heads as to kind of indicate maybe there's like kind of a change in the way their character is becoming. There's a lot of really great, artistic decisions that are made throughout the show, and I really appreciated that. I thought that was probably one of my favorite aspects of the show, along with the kind of the characters and the decisions they make, and the story I think is interesting as well. And this is kind of thought provoking. There's things that you kind of want to think about. There are things that are sort of things that are present in this show that are kind of honestly reflect a lot of the games that I've played recently, including like Final Fantasy X and Xenoblade and all the other things that I talk about 24/7. There are things that are, that are sort of the prime themes of the central themes in the show that kind of translate, and you can kind of see glimpses of that in the games that I play. So if you are into that, Nier's another one. Nier Automata. There's things from that kind of carry over into this, and vice versa. So if you like that, you might like this. There's a lot of things to appreciate. I think it's maybe more so common in Japanese media, I think, in general. These kinds of things regarding fate and time and death and abstract, like just the meaning of life. Like there's these kinds of concepts that they sort of go over, and I appreciate that as well. I think so. If you like that, check it out. If you like that kind of thing, check it out. But yeah, this might kind of lead me into getting back into anime, and I say that kind of with a grain of salt, because I have said that exact thing of getting back into something just many times without fully committing. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that I have. It doesn't mean that committing to something is such a huge responsibility. It's just watching a show. It's superfluous. It's not it's not actual obligation or responsibility that's important. It's just it's something that you do in your free time. It's not that big of a deal. So I do say that kind of with a grain of salt. It's just like, I don't know, but I really do think that I feel that there's kind of like a thing where I feel that I'm kind of getting back into it a little bit. There's shows that I want to check out. I think this show in particular, Madoka, kind of lit a bit of a fuse. I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling more of like an appetite for this kind of thing. And so I do want to finish watching Mob Psycho. I do want to finish Attack on Titan. I'm honestly surprised by how much I've been able to not be spoiled by the show. I have expectations of how the show is going to end, because I think, it was talked to death when the final seasons and episode came out. So I'm not going to be super surprised by how things go, because it's been out for a little while now, and it has been talked quite extensively online, and it's difficult to kind of avoid those things. And I have gotten spoiled by some things because I typed up I looked up the name of an artist, a music artist, and her name unfortunately resulted in the YouTube search bar spoiling a massive, I don't know how big it is actually in the context of the rest of the remaining part of the show, but it spoiled something, and I'm like, that sucks. That really sucks. But I think, I don't know if it's going to take away from the impact of that specific moment in Attack on Titan, but it's still unfortunate. You know what I mean? YouTube is honestly the worst when it comes to spoilers for shows or anything like that. So just if you really care about not, I talked about spoilers and trailers last week. But if you really want to go into an experience, whether it is like a movie or a show or a game, I think it's for your benefit to just completely, I don't know, go clean on YouTube. I think what you can do, I think, is, and I sort of did this when I was trying my best to avoid anything Xenoblade related, is that I signed out of kind of my main YouTube account completely, and I just if I wanted to watch something, I had to search it up. So unless I accidentally searched up Xenoblade 3, I would have been good to go. So it was just avoid all all of that kind of content whatsoever, just so I have a very clean experience with it. Even if you do that, I think it can once in a while, some things might kind of slip through and you might get accidentally spoiled by something. So I don't know, there's ways to avoid it. Like, I think YouTube is probably the worst, the worst kind of, the worst, like, suspect for this, because of just how much goes on every single day, and how much the algorithm and the search engine is kind of based off of, popular trends and what's trending and that kind of thing. So I think you really just kind of got to stay clear of that if you're getting into something that you want to stay as spoiler free as you've got to be. But anyways, I just kind of going back. I think that when I do have moments where I go through, a period where I'm like, hey, I'm watching this and that, and or I'm playing something. It just is what it is. It's just sort of just kind of a moment in time. I do wish, this is something I've already expressed many times before. I do wish I had more of an appetite to watch a show, or more shows, especially because I think movies, I have an easier time to kind of get in and out because I know that it's a singular experience for the most part. But with shows, I think it's just the fact that there are so many things that I have to sort of get through, is kind of like off-putting for me. I started watching, for an example, I feel this is a good example. A while back, I started watching The Wire. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I thought it was pretty good. I think this was when I had, what was it? I had Amazon Prime, like the free version for college students. So this is a long time ago. And then my membership sort of expired, so I hadn't watched this since then. And it's one of those things where it's like, do I want to restart the show? I know it's only 2 episodes, but then it just feels, depending on how sort of the want for me to actually continue on is just kind of, it depends. And then also you just have to consider, like, you just don't have all the time in the world. And I think it's like you have this sort of decision paralysis because you see the watch time or the lengths of certain things, and that sort of honestly puts me off to kind of going into it. And then I just kind of stick to something else because it feels easier in a sense, right? Again, it's all just sort of, it's just kind of these like small decision making things. It really isn't that big of a deal, but these are kind of things that I think about when deciding what I want to use my time for. So I think that getting into something like anime recently has been kind of a nice thing. Just a nice change of pace because really I haven't spent too much time, consuming other things outside of like video games and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It just always kind of comes back around to, me considering what I want to put my time into and whether I want to devote so much of my time. Because if I think about it, with something like The Wire, where you have 5 seasons, and there's like, I don't even know, like 10 plus, it's more than 10. It's more than 10 episodes a season. There's quite a lot. And you just look at that, you're like, nah, screw that. I can't do it. I can't do that right now. And then you put it off, even though in reality you probably could. You just have to kind of, get through it. But then it's like you're not really enjoying the show if you're just thinking about, oh, I got all these episodes I gotta go through. It's like, no, you enjoy for what it is. You know what I mean? Like I'm not enjoying the show for the quality that it is. I'm just kind of like thinking about what's coming up next. It's like, oh yeah, I finally got through season 1. It's like it's not the best way to enjoy something, you know what I mean? It shouldn't just be like a check mark. That's something that I still maybe, I think I've gotten a lot better at. Just thinking about, this is like a conversation from a while back, but I think it makes sense to kind of bring it back. A long time ago, not a long time ago, maybe a few years ago, I was sort of thinking about how I looked at video games and how I sort of maybe thought more of this concept of like a backlog and that sort of thing. And now it's just like I do have sort of a quote unquote backlog, but I consider it more of just the library of games that I have, that I have yet to play, and I would like to I would like to play next. But I try to avoid thinking about, oh, I need to beat this game, or blah blah blah. And I know I sort of, maybe that's a little hypocritical considering the way I do talk about games, and trying to beat them and that sort of thing. But I really try not to get super bogged down if I'm not able to complete something. I haven't beat Outer Wilds yet. I don't know how much of that I have left, but I don't, I don't know when I'm going to get back into it. Maybe sometime in the future, but I don't feel pressured to beat games like that. I feel I want to beat them when I feel like beating them. And right now I just don't feel that I would be giving the game the attention it deserves, because I feel I need to have a little bit more patience with it. I think there were definitely moments with the game, kind of relating to kind of the controls and maybe sort of the time limit constraint of it, where things got a little bit frustrating and I wasn't really having too much fun with it. And I think it's fair to maybe take a break from the game. I think it's fair to even stop playing it too if you really don't want to pick it back up. That's not how I feel about Outer Wilds. I do want to eventually complete the game, but oftentimes it's just like you don't have to feel obligated to complete something just because there's like a part of you that has to get through with it. It's sort of a similar kind of way that I look at books. That's kind of something that's more recent for me, where I just it's I think with books especially, it feels much more of this thing where I really have to kind of be dialed in, and if the language of the book, if the writing style and whatever the book is sort of talking about isn't really clicking with me, I'm just gonna leave it, and it's fine. So I why not use that same approach for other things as well? Like it's fine if you don't complete something. It just kind of is what it is. You just weren't super interested in it. I feel much more connected with games, and I feel that I want to see through to the end for most of the games that I do play, because I tend to enjoy the majority of them, right? But with books, I have a bit more, I feel that I have a bit more, I don't know, it's weird to say, but I feel I have a bit more sway and flexibility, in the sense that I'm okay just kind of leaving it off to the side and moving on to something else, because I'm not as connected to it. It's just different. It's just however people want to approach things is fine. If you happen to not like something, you don't have any obligation to complete it. And you don't, if you don't want to complete it now, you can complete it later. It's always going to be there. As long as it's not like an online service game and they shut down the servers or something like that. I'm kind of retreading sort of the same conversations that I've had before, but it is sort of interesting to talk about in terms of, how you consume your media and that sort of thing. It's nice to watch something that I haven't watched in a while, especially, something along the lines of like anime. And I think I'll probably be getting into Mob Psycho in a little bit. I don't know, maybe if there's something else that I'm watching, I'll get into that. But I think Mob Psycho is probably the next thing on, the next thing that I wanna get into in the next because I'm very interested. I don't know much about what the final season looks like, because the season 2 had almost kind of this like climactic feeling, but I feel like this series does a lot of kind of subversion of your expectations. It subverts kind of like a lot of tropes. Sometimes it does just kind of lean into them, but there's a lot that it does which is so different from other anime and other animations that I really have enjoyed. Even though I haven't finished the series, I still consider Mob Psycho to be one of my favorite anime. So I'm excited. I'm interested in seeing how they wrap things up, considering kind of the, almost the, you could say almost world-ending event in season 2. Not to give too much away, you haven't seen the show. I'm very curious to how it kind of wraps up. Just quick little catch up on this weekend on some of the other things that I got into. I think this week I'm going to be a little busy. I don't know when I'll have the time to record. Maybe maybe I can squeeze in some time this weekend, or if not, maybe Friday, to just talk about a few things. But other than that, I think I have a bit of a full slate going on. Just a quick little weekend / Monday catch up, and I'll talk about the rest of this week by the end of this week. All right, recording this on Thursday, August 15th, a little earlier in the week than I sort of anticipated. Just throwing this out because I'll be a bit busy this weekend. So I just kind of wanted to do a quick catch up on some stuff, some things that I'm looking forward to, in terms of just, whatever is out there in terms of entertainment, things that I'm currently watching, playing, that sort of thing. It's probably going to be a cool 15, this one. A little shorter than what it's been normally. It's been a pretty busy week for me, just in terms of just workload and that sort of thing, and it's sort of going to continue throughout this weekend. Just being sort of busy, and not in a bad way, but it's gonna be, it might be a little hard to get into, some of the things that I usually talk about. I'll probably have to put some things on hold as I usually do when it comes to, just with my schedule and that kind of thing. That's it. That's kind of what's been going on. I have, on kind of the off chance that I have had a little bit of time to myself, I've actually gotten a little bit back into Slay the Spire a little bit. This is something that I've actually have played a little bit over the past like couple weeks or so. But I've kind of gotten back into just doing like a run a day. It really is kind of the perfect game to have something like that, where you really aren't committed to something. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like you're putting so much of yourself into the game. It's not like a time sink necessarily. Some people, I think when it comes to games that are sort of roguelike games, whether it's Slay the Spire, Balatro, Hades, which I also have played a little bit recently. I think maybe it's a little hard for some players to, really enjoy the progression of the games, because I guess in the case of something like Slay the Spire, the way you make, quote unquote, make progress in the game is by just continuing to do runs so that you yourself learn and get better at the game. Sometimes there are some random elements that are thrown in there, depending on like which paths you take, leading up to, you know, the various rooms and levels and that sort of thing. But unlike something like Hades, where Hades, when you do continue to make runs, your character is able to attain stat boosts and different abilities and unlock weapons and that sort of thing. There's real like tangible, you know, things that you can see upgraded, and you know, you can kind of tell by the damage output, like that you're stronger, your character is stronger, and that sort of thing. It's a little different in the case of something like Slay the Spire, because you aren't because a lot of it, there are things that, you know, there are ways for the game to show you that you are progressing. There's like one additional unlockable character that's available once you've, you know, played the game enough, but outside of that, until you like fully beat the game, in a sense, you're not able to kind of unlock the more difficult modes of the game. So I think maybe it is a little more difficult for some people to maybe grasp that and to, you know, to enjoy that. Maybe for some people, they just don't enjoy that, and I think that's fine. Some people just don't like roguelike deck builders, right? That is kind of a very niche type of game, which I've like I've said before, I've really enjoyed pretty recently. It's grown to become one of my favorite sort of genres, you know, off to the side. But it is really just the right game for a very short, casual gaming session, where it just doesn't feel like I have to invest myself too much in, you know, a story or whatever. I can just play it while listening to music or a podcast, whatever. It's just right for that kind of setting. If I do lose, it's not the most devastating thing ever. So it, like, you can just kind of start over again. Like it can be quick too. You can like really sort of speed run it in a way too, if you really want to, kind of challenge yourself and just click and see how that goes. Not really thinking too much about what cards you're using and that sort of thing. So that's just kind of, it's just nice. It's just the right game for that kind of thing. Yeah, I think with Balatro, and speaking of Balatro, the developer announced that there will be an update coming out in 2025, which I am excited for. I have no idea what it's going to be, but like new game modes and maybe just new ways to play the game, because I think that I've sort of I'll go back to it for sure. There are still things to do. I haven't, you know, fully completed every tier and every deck of the game, but I've sort of exhausted kind of what I've gotten out of the game, which is fine, because I've put in a ton of time into that particular game. So maybe just kind of a break, but I'll probably still play it, you know, pick it up when I just, you know, have a little bit of time, and I'm kind of switching in and out of, you know, kind of the usual games that I play. But I'm excited to kind of see what the update will look like. I'm interested in seeing if it's something where it will switch up some of the you know, the strategies that you typically use for runs. I think I guess one minor gripe, and this is really, you know, this is coming from someone who's put in just like 100 plus hours into the game. I think you find yourself just sort of gravitating towards particular builds with cards, and maybe that might just be due to the fact that I'm not someone who likes to experiment a ton. It's like when I find like a good strategy, I tend to kind of stick with it because it's sort of safe and, you know, kind of the result of it. So if there are more ways to kind of challenge you on that, challenge you to try to use different kind of builds and different types of jokers and that sort of thing, I think it could really build upon what is already a really great game, and just kind of continue to, I don't know, draw the players back in, like myself. So I'm interested in seeing how that turns out next year. And it's nice that, you know, just give us a little time. You know, I've thoroughly enjoyed the base game. It would be cool to see the new update come soon, but I just enjoy what's already there, and just kind of anticipate what the next thing is going to come up. I don't know how significant of an update it's going to be, but I mean, the fact that it was sort of announced in a very you know, more, I guess, more of a bigger announcement than just like a typical update. I think it says that he's the developer is like cooking up something. So again, yeah, excited to kind of see what that looks like going into the next year for 2025. I guess another sort of rumor / news on kind of the gaming front. There's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of talk about how the Switch 2, the Switch successor, most likely won't be revealed by Q1 or like, you know, the first by April 2025, which is I don't really find that to be super shocking, because honestly it feels, you know, that is a little bit of a way to go. That's like, you know, 8 months ahead of time, but I still think that it really doesn't feel that long if we have to wait until summer. And this is coming from someone who is likely not going to get it at launch unless there's like a Xenoblade game or something like that. Then I most likely won't be getting the Switch 2 at launch, but I'm also sort of you know, holding my breath a little bit to see if something like that happens. I can wait a year plus for the new system. I still have, again, like I've said many times, I am in no rush to get new games unless it's particular games, but I have plenty awaiting for me on the current console, so I'm really not really clamoring for something new. But again, if there are exceptions to that. I think that within kind of that time frame, it gives us enough time to kind of think about what could potentially be on the system. I think there is a little expectation that there's going to be an announcement made in September outside of maybe a fall direct or like a September direct. I honestly don't even know if there's going to be a September direct, just because it corresponds and coincides with a potential Switch 2 announcement, right? And they probably don't want to, you know, if they are announcing it at that time, they probably don't want the attention to shift away from it. I think, you know, obviously they want to maybe talk about the games that are still going to be releasing on the original Switch, including Zelda and, you know, whatever other stuff that's coming out. But, you know, I think maybe the focus would probably be to put that on the Switch 2. But I still am kind of hesitant to even say that there's going to be a direct in September. There could be, just to kind of build up some hype. Zelda is going to be coming out right afterwards, after the if it happened like mid-September, it'll be releasing towards the end of September, so that could kind of dredge up some more hype, and they could have the ability to announce maybe some more things, a few more things. We'll see about that, but I don't know. It just feels like we have there's reasons. There's plenty of reasons to be patient. I know that a lot of people are impatient and just kind of want to see a successor as soon as possible. I know it's been a very long generation for this Switch, even if it doesn't really feel like it. It's going to be going on 8 years, which is kind of crazy. So I get it. It's time. It's been one of the longest running, console generations for Nintendo and stuff. So I can totally see why people, want something new. The hardware limitations are definitely something that are, kind of setting back the system against the, kind of the competitors, with obviously the PlayStation and Xbox Series. So it's very easy to kind of, feel that there should be there should be some progress made, and I think there is definitely a lot of impatience, because there have been rumors for this system going on for such a long time. Like, it's been 2 years basically of Switch 2 rumors. So I understand for those who stay on top of that kind of thing that it's it's probably agonizing. They're just like, I just want it to release so I can, get off of this news cycle. I totally get that. And I think that it's I don't know. I think it is a long time coming for sure. But I personally am not someone who necessarily needs an announcement made as soon as possible. I can wait a little bit longer, but it would be nice. It would definitely be nice. I concur with a lot of other people that having some clarity, some confirmation would be good, just so we don't have to kind of be on this endless cycle of news and rumors and all that kind of stuff, just so get off this kind of hamster wheel. But yeah, I think we just gotta hold. We just gotta be a little patient, A lot of games, games nowadays, games themselves take forever to release. There's a lot of development time that is needed for games to be made for current gen consoles. So, Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out next year, but that game has taken when was 5 released? Like 2013, 2012. It's been more than 10 years, that's for sure, which is kind of crazy, right? So 10 years for a game development is pretty wild. So and I know Rockstar has other projects, Last of Us, that kind of thing, but 10 years for a game is a very, very long time. So I think that there's definitely should be a hopefully rather an announcement is kind of made, somewhat soon, at least by the end of this calendar year. I started watching, I really only watched the first episode of Mob Psycho season 3. I forgot how much I enjoyed this show. There's just so much character to it, in the animation, the humor, just the way in which everything is presented. It's hard for me to even think of an anime that's similar to this. I guess maybe Psyche K, which is kind of funny in it because they both involve sidekicks, and humor is a pretty integral part of the shows. That's probably maybe the only other comparison that I can make. But Psyche K is so like unserious that there's like no, I don't know. It doesn't. It is like purely like a gag anime. So it's not really. It doesn't have the same amount of. It doesn't go for the emotional depth that Mob Psycho does. Mob Psycho just does everything so well with the action. Again, the comedy, the characters are all interesting and fascinating. I really just I don't know where the story is going. I have some. I mean, there's like some hints that they give in the first season, or sorry, in the first episode of the third season, but I have no idea. The intro sequence also doesn't really give us a lot. It's kind of vague. Like, they show certain characters and stuff, but it doesn't give away a lot of, who the quote unquote antagonists are. Are there even gonna be antagonists this season? I have no idea. Because if you compare it to the season 2 opening, you get like, okay, there's a clear clash between, these certain characters. Certain characters are going to fight against each other. It's pretty, they give a kind of they flesh out a bit of a story going on. But with season 3, I have no idea. It's kind of similar to season 1 and how they did that. How there wasn't really necessarily, through line story that was presented in the opening of the show. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm interested in seeing where they take things, how Mob's character develops, and how they kind of finish it off, and how they kind of tie things up, because this is the final season. So it's sort of it's been a long time coming. I mean, it's been out for a while now. I just haven't watched it. But it's a long time coming for me to finally catch up with this show, and I've missed it. I've missed seeing these characters. So looking forward to seeing where kind of things go. Again, slowly making my way through Unicorn Overlord. I haven't had too much of a time. I haven't had a ton of time to make too much progress from last time, but I mean, I think I still have quite a ways to go. So I think this might be one. This game might be something where I just kind of chip away at it, maybe play it on the weekend, that sort of thing, because that's kind of what I have the ability to do, given my current schedule. So that's that. I know it's going to be a bit of a shorter episode this week, and also recording this earlier in the week as well. So I don't know, maybe I'll miss out on some things that happen over the weekend, but if I do, I'll catch up on that next week and talk about that. Anyways, thanks for listening as always. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.